Hey, Chandler here, and over the last several weeks I've been doing reaction shows and reviews for the latest episodes of Arrow and The Flash. Well, those seasons have come to an end, but I didn't want the fun and the discussion to come to an end, so I decided to come back and try and do another live chat and see if some of you guys joined in once again. And with this week, what I wanted to do is pause to spend some time talking about 5 things I think that The Flash Season 4 needs to do to return to the best of the show. So Season 3 wasn't bad, but it kind of dragged a little bit. Wasn't quite right where I wanted it to be. So I'm hoping that as we go into Season 4, they can correct a few things. And I don't think it takes a lot to make the show even better than it's been before. To learn from the best and the worst of the first several seasons and get on a great track to the best season yet. So that's what I'm hoping for. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through my 5 things this show needs to do in Season 4 to be the best season yet. And if there's some people here, if you want to have some discussion afterwards, we can do so. So if you're watching this at a later time, this was recorded live, so there will be people talking to me from time to time, and I might talk back at them. But with that said, let's go into my 5 things that I believe The Flash needs to do in Season 4 to be the best season yet. Thing number 1 that it needs to do is that it needs to be a lighthearted season. It needs to be a season that is intentionally lighter than Season 2 was. That's more fun, that kind of returns to the show's roots of being the lighter-hearted cousin or brother to some of the other shows like Arrow, which is intentionally a very heavy show. This is supposed to be the lighter show, and hopefully that's what this show can be. And what do I mean by that? And my other points will kind of fill in some of the gaps on what I say when I say that I want it to be more lighthearted, and there'll be specific examples of that or extrapolations from this point. But just the idea that if there's long-range story points like we had in Season 3 where people are mad at Barry, where that's like a key point is Cisco is mad at Barry, where Barry is being dishonest with Joe, where Barry is terrified someone is going to die, when the whole season kind of has these really heavy things that bring down the emotion of the show, that's a problem. And for the show they're trying to do, for the show that they started with, I think it loses something when it goes so far into brooding. So the first most important thing that I hope that they do in Season 4, and I think could make it the best season yet, is if they go for lighthearted and they intentionally try to avoid doing subplots that just have that weight that lingers there for a while. Like, you can still have characters die. You can still have big stakes, but that's not the same thing as having an 8-episode story arc where everybody's mad at Barry for messing up the timeline. And so things like that are where I hope that this season goes. So that's point number 1. Thing that's most important, and I'll go digging deeper into this on the later points, but number 1, I want a lighthearted season that figures out how to have the fun on the show, where Cisco gets to be funny again. He doesn't, like, whenever Cisco goes into brooding mode, I don't think it works. So the fun side to it. If we get another Wells, let's get another fun and funny Wells. That's point number 1. Point number 2, and I've talked about this extensively in my reviews for Arrow and The Flash, no season-long bad guy. No season-long big bad guy. Certainly not the way that they've been doing it. So one of the problems that they had with both Arrow this season and Flash is they had a bad guy that was so smart, that could so outthink them and outdo all of their maneuvers and kept killing people, that throughout the whole season there was this weight on both shows kind of holding things down with this idea that you know someone is out there that will kill more people, that is killing people, and they can't stop the person. And that puts so much weight and heaviness on the show. With Arrow, it makes more sense. However, with Flash, that really dampens some of the fun and the uniqueness of what makes this show, and what we want about this show gets lost as soon as we're talking about a situation where there's that much heaviness going on in every single episode. And so I think that's one of the problems with the big bad guys. You can come in if you want. my wife might be able to help. At the moment, there's only a couple people, so maybe you can get the chat board going. Anyway, sorry, my wife just walked in. She wasn't sure if she was going to be able to help. If you missed it last week, we had a pretty lively discussion, and while we were having our discussion that went longer than we were thinking, my daughter decided to play with queso and poured it all over our couch, all over the floor, all over the door, and all over our bed. It was 1 week ago.
Oh, and then the next
because there were 2 episodes.
Up?
So anyway, it was the next night she threw up. So anyway, so that's point number. Well, you can't take my notes away. It's just too quick. Yes, you're there, sir. So point number 1, thing that I think they need to do is they make sure they have a light-hearted season, a season that has the fun back, and then I think a key element to that is they don't have a big bad guy that's looming, that they can't defeat, that bogs things down. And beyond that, one of the problems they run into with all of these big bad guys, because they've only done speedsters, is they just keep recycling plot points. How are we going to try and stop him? Let's get this device. This device might stop him. Uh-oh, it didn't work. The speedster kidnapped someone. They keep recycling these plot points over and over again because they're having a bad guy that's around for 20 episodes. They have someone and so then they're like, we have to have a big reveal as to who it is. Well, if you don't have a big bad guy, you don't have to have these big reveals as we've had before. And so I think point number 1, have a light-hearted season. Make it fun. Have it be the funniest. Like, set that as a goal. I think they should just write that on the wall. Call me. Sorry about that. I just got a phone call. So, like, they should write it on the wall as like a goal. Funniest season we've done yet. I think that's a goal that they should make, and it would make for a fun season. Sorry about that. I keep getting phone calls. If you can call, it's Brent Hagen. If you can go ahead and give me a call and see if there's something important. That comes to mind with Arrow because it's an action show, it's drama. Fun doesn't come to mind because it's just more brooding. There are fun elements to it, but that's not what comes immediately to mind. Flash is a character that fun should immediately come to mind, and with this show, that has been true. This season 3 wasn't so much, so I want a fun season 3, and I don't want a big bad guy. I want them to go in a direction to where we get to discover things kind of where they have multiple different people. And that's really what I hope they do, is almost have like mini story arcs that are like 4 episodes long, that are like 3 episodes long, that almost could be put together as a mini movie. I think I talked about it last week, but they did the Justice League cartoon from about 13 years ago. Seasons 1 and 2 of the show is designed in such a way that basically every 2 or 3 episodes could be made into a Justice League TV movie, an animated movie. And so then seasons 1 and 2, there's kind of like 10 Justice League animated films that came out of this show. And I think that that's such a cool direction that they could go with The Flash, where you make these little story arcs that go together. You have this serialized storytelling where plots kind of go into one another. But what you don't need to do is have one big bad guy, one gigantic plot where Barry spends 16 episodes, will I be able to save Iris? Is she going to die? Like, don't do that. Don't have something so heavy for so long. Go fun, little mini story arcs, and have some of the past speedsters come back, but don't have another big bad, don't have another speedster. So that's number 1 and number 2. Have a fun season, and have a season that doesn't have a big bad guy. Number 3, have Barry return in a reasonable amount of time. Have Barry return in a reasonable amount of time. So this is what you don't know what I'm talking about here. At the end of the season, Barry goes to Speed Force, prison, heaven type thing. It's taken off, and so then it's like this massive cliffhanger. Okay, is he coming back? Is Wally taking over? Is Jay taking over? What's going on? And I don't think this show has an answer where Barry comes back, or excuse me, where Wally takes over and Barry's gone for 8 episodes. That could have worked for this show. Jay can't take over the show. You have to have Barry come back, and hopefully Barry comes back in a pretty quickly, reasonable amount of time, and they don't go too weird with it. Once again, going back to previous points of I don't want a big bad guy, and I want it to be fun. And so if he comes back jacked up, if he comes back whacked up out of his mind, and the fun is gone, and it's like, how are we going to fix Barry's broken, and he doesn't know who Iris is, and they need to fall back in love, and he needs to learn who his friends are, and he needs to learn how to be. If it does too much of that stuff, and it drags out this storyline too long, the fun's gone. Like, I hope we get to a point where there's just like stretches of just episodes of them in their groove as a superhero team of friends that can have fun and have some adventures and fun and exciting things with it. I don't want this really stretched out, overly complex stuff. And so I'm just not crazy about that type of stuff. So, and I just saw someone in the chat board. My wife was here. She had to go. I was getting phone calls on my phone while I was trying to do this. So I kept cutting the live feed. So my wife went to go call that person to make sure all is good, or check to make sure things are good on that end. So she's not running the chat board. Someone just mentioned that they needed to focus on Wally for like the first half of the season. My fear with the idea of having Wally be the focus for the first half of the season is, thus far, the guy they have as Wally hasn't like impressed me as a lead man. Now, there's a lot of actors. You can be a really good actor, you can be a really convincing actor, and still not be a leading man. Someone that just has a charisma that you want to watch them, just a likability that can lead a show. That's a specific personality, specific amount of acting style that I just haven't seen out of this Wally. They haven't made him this character that I think can lead the show. From what I've seen up to this point in time, that's kind of my take on it. So I just don't know. So I'd be very skeptical of having Wally take the lead on it in that fashion. So I kind of want Barry to come back pretty quickly and not be this wacky, weird guy. And for the simple reasons that what I said before of, if Barry comes back and he's weird, if Barry doesn't come back for a long time, and the show's just all out of whack trying to figure out what it's trying to be with Wally as the lead, then the show's weird for a while. It's off, and I don't want a season that's off. I don't want a season that's just trying to figure out what it is, which is what the season would be if they have a new lead to the show, which if Wally takes over as the lead of the show will be off for a while. And then if they bring Barry back, then the show has to rediscover, how do we bring back Barry now that Wally's been the lead of the show? And so you have a show with an identity crisis in any of these options. Unless Barry comes back, and pretty quickly they resolve it. And to kind of counter what I said about season 3, one of my problems with season 3 is they didn't spend enough time with Flashpoint. I don't have those same feelings about Barry being off in Speed Force prison, him coming back. I kind of want that to be resolved pretty quickly. Maybe they'll blow my mind and I'm totally wrong on all this. But I do not want this long, drawn-out storyline with Barry, with Barry weird and off, Wally running the show. Like, I just don't want that, because I don't know what show that is. And it's not the show that I kind of fell in love with, that I decided to do videos about, if that's kind of what happens with it. We got people chiming in on the chat board. We got a Matthew V. Hames saying Sean Chandler is Savitar. Buddy, you can't spoil the next season in the comments on these deals. Now everybody knows where the show is going, that I'm going to be the main villain, the main bad guy. I was trying to throw everybody off with my points on this one, but you just spoiled it for everybody. Anyway, so point number 1, first thing I think they need to do is have a really fun season. Make it a goal, make it the funniest season, and avoid too many long plot lines that kind of bog the dynamic of the show down. So the idea that Barry is obsessed with stopping Iris from dying bogs the show down if you stick too long in that. The idea that Cisco hates Barry because he lied to him weighs the show down. So try to avoid things like that. Number 2, I don't want a big bad that runs the whole season. I don't want this guy that's out there that they can't figure out how to stop him going on for the whole season. So that's number 2. And number 3, I want to have Barry return in a reasonable amount of time. I don't want Barry gone forever, and I don't want Wally to take over for 8 episodes. I don't want things like that. Number 4 is a quick one and an easy one. No more speedster villains. Don't give us any more speeds. Let's take a season off from introducing new speedster villains. Let's just say pause on that for a season. I'm sure in the canon there's all sorts of other people that could come in, but they've done it to death. They've overplayed it so much with 3 seasons of big bads that are all speedsters. I think they just need to stop that. Now you can bring back some of the other ones and kind of let's go back and touch base on those sorts of things. Mick Rock Movie Review says, who do I want to be the main villain? Point number 2 is I don't want there to be a main villain, so no main villain. I don't want there to be a guy that you'd say, this is the main villain. Maybe a main conflict, but not a main villain. But so I don't want another speedster, any new speedsters, even as kind of like standalones. Bring back some of the old guys. That's cool, that's fine. But the idea of more of them, I think they've overplayed that hand. They've gone to that well too many times that they need to just push pause on it for a season. Like I said, bring back established characters. Don't introduce new ones. And my 5th one, like I said, I want this to be a fun season, so my 5th one, I want a great, fun wedding episode. I want a wedding episode that we just get to enjoy it and have fun with it. That we're not just bogged so far down with all of, like, in some shows it's like, we'll do a wedding episode, and that day someone's dad dies. Like, I don't want that. I don't want Jade to die the day of the wedding. I don't want any, like, Cisco to turn evil. I don't want Killer Frost to show up. Like, let's just have a fun wedding episode, and maybe some villain shows up at the, like, I mean, obviously you have to have a villain, you have to have some conflict to it of that nature. Let's have a fun wedding where great things happen that has a big payoff to this romance they've been establishing for 3 seasons, that even before that season had a history going back over 10 years of these people really liking each other, him being in love with her. Let's have a great wedding episode, because I want a fun season is what I'm hoping for. So my four, that's 5 right there. Someone's chiming in saying the next season is going to focus on the rogues. I do not know. I haven't followed the rumor mills at all on some of that stuff. Feels a bit early for me to feel that I could trust the rumor mill, but I haven't followed it anyway. On my end, I tend to wait until stuff really gets confirmed, because I don't want to get my hopes up, or I don't want to get too frustrated too soon. So even as I make this list, this is kind of my out there. These are just my thoughts, disconnected from any sort of information. So my 5 things: I want a lighthearted. I want it to be the funniest and the most fun season of victories, of a great wedding, all that fun stuff. Number 2, I don't want a big bad guy. I don't want there to be a main villain. Maybe some story arcs, and so maybe there's 4 main villains. Perhaps something along those lines, but I don't want there to be one big bad guy that weighs down the season. Number 3, I want Barry to return pretty quickly so that the season can kind of get established fast. Was what I would hope would happen. Number 4, I don't want any more speedster villains. No more new speedster villains. Now you can bring back the old ones, but don't go with any new ones. They've gone to that well too many times. And number 5, I want a great wedding episode. If you guys have some questions, if you want to start throwing them in here, I'll try and respond to a few things. I don't know, my wife's still on the phone, so I don't know, maybe something serious is going on that I need to leave pretty soon and address. But before I do all that and return to serious real life stuff, I'll take some of your questions. Mike McRock threw out the question, what do I think about a crossover episode? Well, actually, what I hope that they do, I'm sure they won't do this, but I think what would be best for them to do with the crossovers, because I want all these shows to go back to a little bit more fun and less kind of such serialized big bad guy stuff, is have a situation where the crossover for the 4 shows is actually a 4-part TV movie. That it's not one episode is a Supergirl episode, one episode is a Flash episode, one episode is Arrow episode, one episode is Legend of Tomorrow. Just do a 4-part crossover that's like one story, not trying to match any of the shows, but it's a 4-night event. It's cut over 4 days, telling everybody chime into all of these, and don't try and make them standalone. Make it a really cool, unique thing. It's a risk to do this. They won't do it. They're not going to do it. But actually make their own Flash crossover TV movie thing. I think that would be great. That's kind of what I was hoping that they were going to do with this one. And the way it played out was Supergirl wasn't really part of the crossover. And then the Flash one was really cool. It was a Flash episode that really did crossover, really neat. And then the Arrow episode was a crossover that didn't really tie into the Invasion one. It was like a cheater way to include it in the Invasion stuff. Felt like it should have been 10 minutes of the... It was like a 10-minute episode of the crossover, but really an Arrow recap show. And then a really cool Legends of Tomorrow finale. So I'm hoping that they do something that's focused entirely on, let's just make a TV movie with all these crossovers. That's what I would love to see. Beyond that for crossovers, have Oliver at the wedding. Maybe have Oliver actually officiate the wedding or something like that. I mean, there's some fun stuff you could do where you bring in some of these other characters into the wedding, or you have like, maybe that's part of the crossover is that the wedding happens and there's stuff going on in Central City, so he calls Oliver, he calls Supergirl, and so they're watching the city while he's having a wedding. So you have a fun crossover like that. There's some all kinds of stuff you could do that I would love to see. Or during the beginning of the episode, or beginning of the season where Wally's taking over, Green Arrow shows up to kind of coach Wally a little bit while Barry's coming back re-alchemating. There's a bunch of cool things you could do with that I would very thoroughly enjoy them doing. I guess I was, in many ways, really disappointed with the crossover.
She's fine.
My daughter walked in and she grabbed a lamp to try and hold herself up, and it's a lamp that's just on a stand, and so she fell over. It could have been really, really bad. Chloe, don't do that. But I was disappointed because it felt too disjointed. Like, they had the plot line for a cool TV movie. Even for the budget, they could pull stuff off. They did things that were really cool, but because they had to match each episode to each show, it wasn't as good as it could have been. I want it to 100% be crossover first, episodes of the show 10th place. Like, let's just make it awesome first. Like, that's the priority. That's really what I would love to see for the 4-part crossover. And if they move Black Lightning into a 5-part crossover, I'd be all for doing something really cool with that. And I hope they do another musical episode that's not what they did this season. I hope they do a crossover, not at all this season. Hey, Chloe, you need to go. You can't. You're standing next to a halogen light that's really, really hot. That's gonna burn. There you go. Yeah. Thank you. There any questions?
What do you think on the first 5 episodes being like Wally West era? I don't know what that is. Where there's Wally, Jesse, Jay, and Bart. That's what it says.
I like
Gamer Cop.
If they do something like that, if it was like 4 episodes, I think that would work. To kind of what I said before, I don't want a big bad guy, and I hope what they do is focus on little mini story arcs that are like 3-4 episodes that kind of function like a mini TV movie. That'll be a recurring theme in everything I'm going to propose. And I mentioned before, earlier in the stream, it's like the Justice League cartoon from about 12, 13, 14, actually no, like 15 years ago, that the way the seasons 1 and 2 worked is that it was a series of mini movies. It would be like 3 episodes that were one story that worked all kind of together, serialized together. If they did like a 4-part serialized Wally and Jay are the Flashes while we wait for Barry to come back, that'd be really cool. I'd be very on board for it if it's handled in that sort of structure, and then it's resolved at the end of it, and maybe even have a time jump. Barry comes back and there's a time jump, so it's not like the season gets bogged down with 6 episodes of Barry being weird and freaked out and off, and I just don't want that. I want it to be a lot of fun. Like I said many times, fun. Funny, returning to the things that we love. And if maybe you have 3-4 episodes where Wally's in charge with Jay, Arrow shows up to kind of give them a few pointers to guide them a little bit. But the central idea is that it's fun and they get to be heroes, not that Wally takes over and he's getting beat up because he's not as good as Barry, and so what's he going to do? And Jay is getting old, so he can't keep up. No. Let him be the hero. If you make Wally the lead for 4 episodes, let him be awesome. Let him do incredible things and make a name for himself. Let him at the end of those 4 episodes prove me wrong in all of my skepticism that I'm going, are they setting up a spin-off? Is he going to get his own show? And I'm excited about it. My wife right here, she's excited about it. Because she was not... If I told her right now, they're doing a Wally show, she'd be like, really? That sounds terrible. And I wouldn't blame her. Do 4 episodes with him in the lead, and kind of like this big story where he gets to be the hero and saves the day, and convince me. I would love that. I would love to be one of them. Anyway, you got something for me. Anyone want some shout-outs real quick?
How soon do you think Barry will come back? I don't know if you've addressed that.
I don't really have a guess as to how soon he'll come back, because I just don't know where they're going with it.
Do you have a hope for how long he'll be gone? a minimum or maximum?
I don't really have any minimums or maximum. Well, I'd say a maximum. I don't want it longer than 4 episodes. If they do like what I just proposed, like this 3-4 episode arc where Barry's gone and at the end of it Barry comes back, and it's fairly normal pretty quickly, and maybe that's part of the plot line is Wally and Jay scheming to try and rescue Barry. That'd be pretty cool. But I don't want it dragged out for 8 episodes or anything like that. And I'd be perfectly fine if at the end of the 1 episode Barry comes back. I really hope they don't do kind of those metaphorized, we're in the Speed Force world, trippy dream stuff. I don't like that stuff at all. So I really hope they don't do that, but, we'll see what happens.
Shout out for Mick Rock Movie Reviews.
Mick Rock Movie Reviews, you get a shout out. We didn't have an episode to watch tonight to chat back and forth leading up to this. So thank you much for chiming in once again and joining us.
Gamer Cop says, how would they do a time jump with the other shows besides a 6-month time skip between seasons?
Because there's no reason to assume that all of the shows are running at the same time. They're parallel to each other. There's no reason they have to unless they're doing highly serialized storytelling, which they have done. So in the one sense, that's fairly... Chloe.
Come on.
Chloe.
Out.
Chloe, you can't do that. Fairly serialized storytelling, in which case it's safe to assume that the timelines would be running parallel to each other. However, if you do standalone stories, if you do kind of these mini movie type ways of storytelling, you can have all of them do a time jump. And it just doesn't matter. Because there's no continuity that would mishmash if you did that. And when I say time jump, I don't mean 6 months. I mean 2 months. And just have a fluid timeline where there's nothing really tying this episode to a moment in time that would tie to Arrow or anything like that. And then Legends Tomorrow obviously doesn't matter because every episode happens at a different time. And Supergirl's on a different Earth. So really all you have to do is be able to sync up Arrow and Flash. And I don't think there's anything healthy for the storytelling of either show to have those 2 shows too parallel to each other. For the most part, it's better for both shows if they kind of have a fluid timeline to where they can wiggle and show up on each other's shows without it feeling like, yesterday Arrow was fighting Prometheus and today he showed up. There's no reason to have to tie the timeline like that. So that would be kind of my take on it.
Didn't you say, I didn't see the episode, but didn't you say there was an Arrow episode with the crossover where the time travel had a consequence with Diggle's baby?
Yes.
So they could do something like that again, where the time effect would impact the show, but wouldn't...
Yeah, see, I mean, when you have time travel and you have so much stuff happening with time travel affecting things, it's very easy to create a scenario where... the whole timeline changes and just cheat a lot of things because they've established that what happens with time travel actually matters and actually does change things. And so you could pretty easily do a lot of stuff like that with the show, with the rules they've previously established. But, I don't think that there's any reason to think that there's these hardline continuity things episode to episode the week that they air on these shows. In particular, when you think that most people don't watch these shows live on TV and all that kind of continuity stuff only matters if they actually do kind of a crossover between episodes and someone is watching those 2 shows parallel to each other, which after the week they debut, people don't do that. Got another question for us.
Like with Barry helping out in Arrow Season 3 and Oliver with Flash Season 1.
Yeah, she's got to go. She has to leave. There's a halogen lamp that just fell over that'll catch our house on fire. I'm sorry, guys. My daughter is playing with electrical cords, and so my house might catch on fire. If my face starts turning more orange and there's waves and stuff, that's because my house is about to burn down. I'm just so committed to doing this live stream that I'm going to stick through the whole thing no matter what happens. All right. Do we have any other questions? Questions. I'm sorry. What was that question? I just saw...
with Barry helping out in Arrow Season 3 and Oliver with Flash Season 1.
Yeah, very much so. They had several crossovers early on. They were just kind of people show up, and you don't think any way how it ties into... Even the next to last episode of The Flash this season, there are multiple crossovers with Arrow characters, with Argus and all that fun stuff, that you never thought while it was happening that somehow this, like, what, wait a minute, where isn't she helping Green Arrow? You don't have to think that, because these people exist in these worlds, and there's no reason to assume that the timeline's locked to our timeline or to each other's timelines. We have another question.
Do you think any more Flashes will show up in season 4? I know they said there's no speedster main villain.
Yeah, that seems to be a heavy pattern of what they do, is introduce new Flashes, introduce new speedsters, even whether villains or good guys. So we got a few more of these Flashes that we could introduce. I would not be surprised at all if they did it. I would suspect that they might find a way to introduce an actual child Flash, like a 12-year-old, 13-year-old tween Flash, is what I just have that vibe.
Smallville?
Like in Smallville. That's literally where it's coming from. My wife can read my mind on this one. That's where I could see them kind of going with it, something that would be different. Because we've got old Flash, we've got adult Flash, we've got Kid Flash, and by Kid Flash we mean 22-year-old Kid Flash. So, Gamer Cop says, your daughter is the new Flash. Not too far off. Not too far off what goes on. She finds her ways to move very quickly, since every time we were like, hey, please sit down, as soon as we went back to focusing on this, then she's like pulling on cords and slamming drawers and stuff. And right now she's probably cooking queso and pouring it on our bed, and then vomiting on her bed, as children do. Got another question?
By the way, wouldn't the Speed Force storm be worse than what happened in season 1 of Arrow?
Like they showed it as these big gigantic lightning and all sorts of crazy stuff happening. It's tough to say. I guess there's some speculation last week as to whether the Speed Force doing the lightning could potentially create more metahumans. That's where I could see more likely them kind of going with some of this, is the idea of creating more metahumans, and so there's more villains throughout this, and you use that as kind of the launching point of the season, is that now the Speed Force is kind of crazy, that we got more people. Wally's the Flash around with Jay, and they're like, how are we going to stop all these new metahumans? And that's kind of the kickoff for our new season, and this TV movie Kid Flash that I'm proposing. CW, if you're watching right now, you can contact me. My email address, just kidding, I wouldn't give that out. Though I think it's out there somewhere.
It's totally out there.
It's not difficult to find me on the internet at all. But CW, please contact me. I've got more great ideas where that came from. I can map out this whole season. It'll be awesome. I got great ideas. You will love all of them.
Word. You.
Oh, real quick, my 5 points, my 5 things. If you're tuning in a little bit late, 5 things I think, this is 10. 5 things I think they absolutely need to do this season. Number 1 is I believe that they have to have a fun season. No more kind of 8-episode long trust issues, Cisco's mad at Barry stuff. No more 12 episodes, Iris is gonna die. Let's have a fun season without those types of things. You can have an episode where people die, you can have consequences. Serious things can happen, but those things matter and you feel them when it's a break from the normal. When the normal of the show is tension and trust and lies and someone's gonna die, it changes the vibe, and that no longer becomes like a pain that you suddenly feel. It's just something you sit in all of the time. So that's number 1. I want it to be fun. Number 2, I don't want a season-long bad guy. No big bad guy at all. Mini story arcs, like 3-4 episode stories that could be like little mini movies. That'd be awesome if they did that. Number 3, Barry returns reasonably quickly. Mini movie, our idea. Kid Flash and Jay, the movie. 4 episodes, they run the city while new humans are showing up. Wally and Jay get to be heroes, and they're awesome, and it's victorious. It makes us go, I hope they get their own show. That's what I want to happen. Barry shows up at the end of the 4th episode, and he's not weird. I don't want maybe an episode or 2 where he's weird. I don't want 8 episodes of weird Barry. Number 4, I don't want any new speedster villains. We've had too many speedster villains. They don't need to add more. Maybe we can recycle some old ones. That'd be cool. Have Ebron Thawne come back, Black Flash, all these sorts of ones. We can rehash the guys we've seen before in a new setting, in a new way. Maybe Wally's taking on the guy from season 1, Reverse Flash. But what I do not want is a new speedster being added to the show. And someone's saying Nightwing was not on Arrow. That is correct. Nightwing was not on Arrow. And number 5, I want a great wedding episode. I don't want a depressing wedding episode. I don't want anyone to die in the wedding episode. I want a fun wedding episode. And I'm going to throw this idea out there. It's a crossover episode where Supergirl has been called upon by Barry to be the guardian of Central City from all these new metahumans so he can have an awesome wedding. She shows up at the end of the episode. It's like this fun, quirky deal. And potentially even Oliver is the one officiating the wedding. We got any questions? Anybody want any shout-outs? Whew.
Oh, my word.
That was a good one.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on the Titan spinoff series?
I don't know enough about the new Titan spinoff series to have any thoughts on it. If they got Dick Grayson in it, I get a lot more interested. We haven't had a really good live-action Dick Grayson. I mean, Chris O'Donnell's awesome. Somebody is really into him. We rewatched the 1993 The Three Musketeers, where there's a really ridiculous-looking Chris O'Donnell in it, and somebody still had the hots for him over 20 years later. But, I mean, we haven't had a good Dick Grayson. I would love a great Dick Grayson on a show to get you really excited about how cool of a character Dick Grayson is, that reminds us that, because he gets forgotten because he's been interpreted so many ways as a little kid. Let's see awesome Dick Grayson. So, but I don't know enough about it to have thoughts about it. There's so many good comic book TV shows right now, or shows that were good, maybe not good anymore, but were good, that had great seasons, that there's a lot of hope anytime they announce a new comic book TV show right now. I'm giving that all categories, all channels have so much good rapport with me. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt that your show could potentially be awesome, because I've been so happy with so many shows over the last several years. Even if you gave me 2 good seasons and 3 awful seasons, Arrow, I exaggerated that a little bit, but that is her opinion. But like, even that, what they gave us in 2 of those seasons is really special, that we got stuff like that. Like, I grew up and we had the 1990s Flash TV show, which is one good episode that's like a mini TV movie. Hence this theme I keep repeating about TV movies. The pilot of that's really good. The show's not as good. And then there was an X-Men called Generation X TV movie in the late 90s. Did we have any other live action? There was a Justice League movie in the 90s. There was Lois and Clark, and so we had that one. And then you jump forward and you had Smallville. That was later for live action. Anyway, but right now we're like in this golden era of cinema as well as TV with comic book stuff. That's, it would have been a dream come true when I was younger, and now I'm older, and the dream has come true. I paused at a weird moment there because it had like a tone to it, like I was saying something meaningful. I have a question. What
comic book character would you like to see in The Flash?
Batman. I mean, it's the obvious pick. I thought that guy they got for Superman, I did a video on my channel, you can look it up. I was like, why'd they cast this midget who's like this scrawny midget as Superman for the show? And he's not actually that scrawny. He's not actually a midget. He's just shorter than me, and I weigh like 20 pounds more than him. And so I always get weirded out when I think, I don't feel like I'm that big of a guy that I should be bigger than a Superman. So I was really down on him. And then I really liked the guy that they got to play Superman on Supergirl. Let's see the guy more. Let's have him do more. Let's have more fun with that. And likewise with Batman. The reason that they're the marquee characters, the reason that that they keep getting movies made about them and cartoons and everything, is because they're great characters that liven every show that they do. They lift them up. They're wonderful characters, and so of course those are the ones that I would like to see. But I guess to my point, we're probably not going to get a Batman. We could get a Dick Grayson, and via that get some backstory. That Nightwing that has not appeared on Arrow, let's have him start showing up this season on Arrow and The Flash. There we go. There's my answer. Dick Grayson as Nightwing, who's filling in a backstory that there is a Batman in Gotham that makes us go, wait, are we going to see Batman soon? There we go. Gamer Cop says, Arrow is discount Batman, and yeah, if you look at my review... So the door over here is cracked open, and my dog's snout just kind of like snuck in like this. No. So we just look over, and all we see is his snout sticking up through the door, and then the door closed. It's like, how did my dog close the door? But if you look at the very first video on my channel that's a review, it's a review of Arrow Season 1, and I call Arrow Season 1 back in 2013, I believe it was. I called it essentially Batman Begins, the TV show, is kind of what that show functioned as, because it had a lot of plot similarities with it. With you have a villain trying to blow up the city. It's kind of like the Narrows. A guy disappeared for a while, comes back from the dead, becomes a vigilante. Number of things about it kind of tied. You could see that they're very much taking inspiration from Batman Begins. So yeah, absolutely, Green Arrow and the show Arrow is Batman Light, and I don't have any problems with that. This show is the best when it's Batman Light, and it's the worst when it's crappy soap opera crap with both Arrow and Flash. Flash has gone in that direction a little bit too much this last season. That's kind of why it frustrated me, and why I keep repeating I want this season to be fun. We got any comments for us? Someone's asking, why is this not Blade Runner 2049? Because this is not a pretentious channel. We enjoy fun things. We enjoy fun things here and enormous burps. So, for that reason, we're not talking about Blade Runner 2049.
So I technically answered this question for you, but it said, would Emma Stone be a cool Tara? And I said Sean Chandler approves of anything Emma Stone.
Yeah, I mean, sure, anything Emma Stone I'm probably going to be game for. However, you're never going to get Emma Stone for this TV show. They don't have the budget to get people like that at all. Sorry, but it's just like, you just look at the biggest name that they've gotten for this show ever, and I don't know who. I guess you've seen like Terry Hatcher on Supergirl, and you've seen Dean Cain, but those are they're like A-list TV stars from the past. They don't have any movie stars in this. I guess they had Michael Jai White a little while back, but he's a direct-to-video movie star. That's the show, or that's the budget of these shows and kind of the reality of it. And even a guy like Manu Bennett, who's not a movie star, they could only get him for the finale of Arrow. So there's some limitations. Someone asked me about doing a review of Smallville. I don't think I would do that, for the simple fact of the matter of I watched it live when it debuted. And then since then I've watched episodes that I like because I have all the DVD sets. And so I've watched elements of it. But it would be the show ran from like the year 2000 to the year 2010, something like that, or 2001 to 2011, which means it's been 5 years since it went off the air. And so there's episodes on it that I haven't seen in 10 years. There's like seasons that I've never rewatched because they're really crappy seasons, and I've never rewatched them. So I'd be reviewing something based off of really old memories and the discussions that I feel that I've had about the show. And I'm not going to rewatch 10 seasons. Like, maybe when my kids are old enough, if they dig it, we'll rewatch through Smallville again. But I'm not going to rewatch the show anytime soon. So I can't imagine doing too much of a review for that reason. I mean, quick thought is that I thought it started strong, got weak in the middle, and it ended really strong. A lot of people gave up when it got crappy, and it got like really crappy in these seasons 6 and 7. And then as soon as Lana and Lex left the show, and it was about Clark and Lana in Metropolis, the show got a lot better. It really improved for the last couple of seasons, where it was just about them in Metropolis and him accepting his destiny. And then the last episode might be the biggest anticlimactic failure you can imagine. It's not a bad episode, but it's like he finally becomes Superman, puts the suit on, and you never see him in the suit. Like, you see him, like, people looking out the window, look, he's over there, and stuff like that, and you see him rip his shirt open, and he's got the S there, but, like, you don't see Tom Welling just standing there talking to people in the suit or anything like that. So it's so anticlimactic the way they ended it, and some of that, like, the budget just didn't exist the way it does now, that I don't think they could have done what they can do, like with Supergirl. So every single episode, week to week, they can do such cool things that you just couldn't do that even 5-6 years ago. A few more questions or a few more shout-outs. We should probably shut it down.
Make sure the house isn't falling apart.
Check to see where the case has been poured this week and who got vomited in who else's mouth.
Ew. Gamer Cop said they did get Tom Felton.
They did get Tom Felton.
And I said he looked like he could be most of their dads.
Yeah, Tom Felton looking a little rough there. I don't know if he smokes too much or what. Just, woo! Looking rough. You look at some of those people and Who's Hottie McHottie now?
Emma Watson?
No, I wouldn't say that weirdly like that. Everyone knows
Neville Longbottom.
Neville Longbottom. Draco did not Neville Longbottom at all.
No.
And woo! Yeah, they kind of switched spots
Reverse Neville.
Yeah, reverse Neville Longbottom. Yeah, he's not a movie star though. As a child, he got a role that was huge and became a successful child actor that is now a working adult actor. But he didn't go on to be a leading man. He was in Rise of the Planet of the Apes in a small part. I don't know what else he's done. And I know he's done stuff. I know that he's been working, but it's not like he's a movie star. And we're comparing, the context we're comparing right now, the idea of them getting Tom Felton on the show was to them getting Emma Stone, A-list actress Emma Stone, who
Especially right now.
after La La Land, she can do whatever she wants right now. She has a blank check. She is at the top of her game right now. She's not going to be on this show unless she's like some enormous fan, which even if she was, she'd show up for like 1 second, and it's not going to happen. But if Emma Stone did show up on the show, anyone that doesn't think that's awesome is crazy.
I'm out. Your laptop died.
Oh, that's sad. My laptop died.
I'll go play.
So anyway, if my laptop died, I'll try and do my last little bit to do a final question or some final quick thoughts. If you got some quick ones for me. Or shout-outs. Ryan O'Toole, thank you for chiming in. Do you even watch The Flash, or you just like doing fun chats with me? Either way, I do appreciate it. And we have got some videos we're going to shoot. Check out Ryan O'Toole's channel. He's another movie reviewer guy. I'm actually going to do some videos with him coming up very shortly, leading up to Planet of the Apes. Russell Wilson says, Batman on The Flash. I am 108% in on Batman on The Flash. Let's do it. I don't see any reason not to do it. Let's put Batman on there. Quick thoughts. Mike McRuck says, never watched Smallville either. You know, you're not missing too much. Shyness Maximus says, what's up, Sean? I just started watching. Unfortunately, we're about to shut it down. If you want to summarize, here's what you missed at the beginning of this episode. I got 5 things I want the show to do in season 4. I want it to be fun. Number 2, I don't want a big bad guy. I want it to have like mini story arcs that are like mini TV movies. 3, I don't want any more speedsters on the show. You can bring back the guys we've seen before, but no more speedsters. Number 4, I want Barry to return relatively quickly. Like 4 episodes, Barry comes back, thumbs up for me, and don't let him be a weirdo. And number 5, I want a good wedding episode. I almost forgot what it was. But yeah, I'd love a good wedding episode. I think that would be pretty cool. SKT says, and big shout out to SKT. He says, Small was pretty good in the last few seasons. That is correct. GamerCop says, Flash needs a race between the Flash and Sonic. That would be quite the crossover if Sonic the Hedgehog showed up on the show. Shymus Maximus says, do you do something like this but for Arrow Season 6? I might do another stream tomorrow for Season 6. We'll see what my wife thinks. So potentially I will be back tomorrow night to talk my thoughts on Arrow Season 6. I'm actually a lot more passionate about Arrow, and I'll have better thoughts about Arrow. Conceptual, in theory, I like Arrow more than The Flash at the moment. The Flash has a better batting average when it comes to seasons. Arrow has one season that's real bad, one that's really disappointing, one that's a mixed bag, and 2 that I think are great. So I'll probably do a video about this. Tyler Tompkins says, do something like this, but for Legion. That would require me to finish watching Legion. And as Tyler Tompkins knows, I am slowly watching through Legion. I think I'm 3 episodes through Legion. I'm trying to get through it. If I finish, perhaps I will do a video like this about Legion, but probably not likely because I'm going very slowly through Legion and it's not pulling me in. I'm simple and stupid and all the trippy, dreamy stuff doesn't work. And I ran out of my mushrooms, and it's a show you really got to watch while on shrooms. That's kind of my take on things. Any final shout-outs? Any final thoughts? Anybody? My wife left me with my laptop to charge it and put the kids to bed. Just not long term, just she's not sitting right here anymore. Just because of the hallucination fat guy thing, Gamer Cop asked me a question related to Legion about a hallucination fat guy. There's a guy, and it's this really creepy guy that shows up through hallucinations. It's a lot of fun and very weird. Anyway, if you guys are checking this out, just so you know, I put out my full review of Season 3 of The Flash, of Season 5 of Arrow, and I ranked all of the seasons of Arrow. Put that video up today. Check them out on my channel. If you're new to my channel, please consider clicking that subscribe button. I'm going to try and keep doing some Flash stuff throughout the summertime, so as there's a news and actual official announcements about the show, I'll put stuff up. I might do another live stream tomorrow. If you guys, Tyler Tompkins says, you have a wife and kids? I pretend to make you guys think. Yes, I have a wife and kids. They show up in my videos all the time and sometimes vomit while I'm doing live streams. But, lost my train of thought. Yeah, if you guys want me to do more live streams and come back next Tuesday, tell me in the actual comment section on this. Don't put it in the chat right here because I can't track with all this stuff. I think SKT has asked me which is better, DC TV or Marvel TV. The Netflix Marvel stuff is the best stuff. They're super hit or miss themselves, but their highs are so high that I think it puts them on top. Gamer Cop says, little did you guys know Sean is actually 13. That's very close to my actual age. If you took it and divided my age by 3, it's very close to 13. Gamer Cop wants one final shout out. Anyone else wants final thoughts? Be sure to click subscribe, share videos, tell people about the beautifulness. If you want me to do more of these, go to the actual comment section, not the chat board you're in right now, but the actual comment section. Tell me to do more of them if they are something that is desirable. And with all that said, thank you for watching.